Hello, all. Welcome to 6.6 Holy War and Religion as a Cause of War. Our objectives today are to understand the features of a holy war, to consider whether religion is a cause of war or violence, and to look at Christian attitudes and approaches towards war and violence. And just shout out Ms. Parr. Thank you very much for this teaching technique that I'm using today. Inspiration. Before I jump to the next slide, you're going to see what is, I think, the worst definition on the course from AQA. But there you go. This is how they do. This is how they define a holy war. A holy war for them is fighting for a religious cause or God, probably controlled by a religious leader. So there you go. Add that to your glossary. Well, I think this is a tough topic, guys. This is a tough topic, holy war. Might be something you've heard of before, might be something you've read about, you've seen in films, heard about in the newspaper. But we're coming to this from a Christian point of view for starters, and we need to start by thinking about what is the definition of a Christian. Have a think about that for a minute. You might want to pause the video and have a think about that. But actually, when we come down to what an actual Christian is, you might have different ideas, but effectively, a Christian is a follower of Jesus. Christian means follower of Christ, it means kind of little Christ. And it's someone who follows Jesus' teachings and follows Jesus' examples, follows Jesus' teachings and follows Jesus' examples. So let's have a think about Jesus' teachings. And just before we do that, actually, bear in mind, most Christians will say a holy war could never be justified. A holy war could never be justified. And hopefully from your knowledge of Christianity thus far, you would understand why that is. But let's look at some of Jesus' teachings, some of his quotes, some of the things that he said while he was on earth. They'll appear if you just watch him down there. Here we go. Oh, as we do this, maybe an idea in your book, on your paper, divide a column, two columns, have a little table, maybe two headings, for holy war and against holy war, for holy war and against holy war. See if we can put these teachings under these two headings. Love your enemies. Love your enemies. Would that be for holy war or against holy war? Pray for those who persecute you. Pray for those who persecute you. Persecute means treat you unfavorably. You're persecuted, you're treated probably often unfairly, you're being discriminated against, and you're being treated in an unpleasant way. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. I wonder if you've got most of these so far under one heading or both. Let's have a look at the next one. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor, whether that be for or against the holy war. Put your sword back in its place. For all who live by the sword die by the sword. Yeah, I can see what you're thinking. You're like, I see what you've done here, Mr. Wood. They're all under one heading, right? They all go under against holy war. There's one left. If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Sell your cloak and buy one? Jesus, that doesn't sound like you. Is that definitely in the Bible? Well, do you know what? Let's have a look. It's actually in the textbook. It must be true. You can see it. Right there. If you don't have a Bible, sorry, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Luke 22, verse 36. Who'd have thought that? Dum dum dum. Even closer there. What else is that? Right, now let's look back at our definition of a Christian. So a Christian is someone who obeys Jesus' teachings and follows his example. Now we've just found, I don't know how many that was, 5 or 6 teachings, which I think you could say definitely go against holy war. Most Christians would say, most Christians are pacifists. Some Christians, they're like a just war, which is most Catholics actually are keen on just war, which we learned about last lesson. But holy war is not really something that any Christians I've ever met would justify or accept. But we've looked at Jesus' teachings. Let's look at his example. So let's update our for and against with things that Jesus did while he was on earth. We'll use some of the people pictured around Jesus here to do this. So, Jesus healed me. Yeah, we know Jesus went around healing people. The paralyzed man, the woman with a hemorrhage, the man born blind, the paralytic, man with the shriveled hand, the Greek Phoenician woman, the 10 lepers, the man who was dumb and deaf. There's a whole bunch of people that Jesus healed. Jairus' daughter, the Roman centurion's servant, Peter's mum, loads of people. Jesus brought me back from the dead. Look at that guy. That's saying that. We know 2 people from the Gospels, Lazarus and Jairus' daughter, who Jesus resurrected. What's this one saying? Oh, Jesus gave me a second chance. Absolutely. We know the woman caught in adultery, for example. He said, go and sin no more. He gave her another chance. Jesus forgave me. Yes, Jesus was a very forgiving man. Absolutely. Okay, so we can see these sort of things. If we think about these in terms of would a Christian support a holy war based on Jesus' teaching, Jesus' actions, I think is unlikely. Jesus showed me compassion. Yeah, that's right. Compassion means love in action, and we saw Jesus doing that very often indeed. So would he be keen on a holy war? I'm not sure. Let's see what else we've got here. One saying, that definitely didn't happen. Ignore that. Let's move on. How did Jesus achieve victory over his enemies? Right, so Jesus had enemies. His enemy was the devil. He came up against the authorities of the time. He didn't like hypocrites. He hated sin. So how did he achieve victory? He achieved victory like this. Now, that's a very powerful and hopefully for you guys difficult image to look at, but it's an image of self-sacrifice, giving up his life for the sake of others. Now, hopefully you can see I'm building a picture here that I think it's very, very difficult for a Christian to argue in favor of a holy war. In fact, for me, I don't think there is such a thing as a Christian holy war. Oh, I know what you're thinking. What about this? That's right, Crusades. Now, you might know a lot about the Crusades. You might know a little about the Crusades. I'd recommend have a watch of this video here. Wait a minute. Here. There it is. Check that out later. Have a little recap of the Crusades. But that was military violence done under the banner of Christianity in the history of Christianity. But do look up about that, and I'll give you a bit of a further understanding as well. Right, so questions for you. So I'd like to answer these in 4 sentences. How do many Christians... Sorry, great start. Number 1, why do many Christians disagree with holy war? Use the information you've put on your table there, or flick back to the slides afterwards if you want. How far do you think that anyone can go to defend their faith? Should anything be off limits? You will probably know that in Sikhism, their symbol itself is made up of different weapons. And Sikhs believe that they can use weaponry, they can use warfare to defend Sikhism and defend their faith. Do you think that's okay? Or do you think there's something that should be off limits like violence? Do you think it's acceptable to offend Christians? Now, that's an interesting one. If you ever get to go to stand-up comedy night, you'll find that a lot of stand-up comedy is anti-Christian and none is anti-Muslim, often any other anti-other faiths. Why do you think that is? And do you think it's acceptable to offend Christians? Explain your answer. And then just have a think about it as a challenge question. Now, what do you think relations between religions are going to be like in 50 years from now? Do you think people are going to be getting along better, worse? Do you think there'll be more wars, fewer wars, etc.? So have a think about. Big love, guys. Catch you soon.